wants to walk, do it now.
I'm your huckleberry.
I'm rich and I'm dead sexy.
Call me Snake.
Like the guy said, you're gonna eat lightning and you're gonna crap thunder.
I'm just a happy camper.
Hail to the king, baby.
It's good to be the king.
All I'm offering is the truth.
Groovy.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss.
We've got entirely too many troublemakers here.
Something strange happened to me this morning. Was it a dream where you see yourself standing in sort of sun god robes on a pyramid with 1,000 naked women screaming and throwing little pickles at you? No. Am I the only person that has that dream?
Beef jerky? No, son, thank you very much. No, it gives me the wind, something terrible.
Oh. I'm a land farmer, motherfucker. I'm dead sexy.
To be a moron, to be Morocco, an imbecile, like the dumbest motherfucker that ever lived.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
I know he can get the job, but can he do the job?
All right, we're gonna have a talk. Y'all better sit your ass right down there. Here we come. Well, welcome, you bunch of crazy mofo dangle bits. You freaking out all over the place. I was trying to get some sleep and everybody's wailing and gnashing their teeth and they acting like, let me tell you something. And I hope you learn it the way I'm going to teach it to you. And if you can't right now, you just take what I'm teaching you here and you lay it out in the sun, let it dry out, right? And then you slice it into finer and finer pieces, and then you put it in a food processor, right, like that. And then you get it until it's a fine powder, and you snort that shit, and you wake up. Listen here. These bunch of people talking all over, saying this the end of the world. Let me tell you something. I'll tell you what right now. The end of the world ain't going to be this dumb, okay? Let me tell you something. This is, I swear, I've been talking to Jesus for years. You can trust me on this. That when the end of the world comes, it's going to be dark. It's going to be scary, but it ain't going to be fucking ridiculous. It's going to be sort of like majestically awful. When the end comes, it's going to have the magic of an antichristo kind of feller, just all friendly looking and shiny and exact like in the prime of his life. It ain't going to be some orange scrote squeezing out 2 years of a presidency before his youth pastor second in command takes over and tries to shit out the rest of it while we all go, isn't that funny how that worked out? It ain't going to do like that, okay? And y'all right, you can quit, you can lay back, you can do that. There's a whole chat room full of people, and there's a bunch of in there. Look at you. I'm looking at you right now. Oh boy, I tell you right now. And for the record, I voted for the ladies. Don't give me into that shit. Bunch of you folks messing around just because I got the Appalachia dental plan. You gonna make up like that? Listen here. I know you're right. Bicycle Mike, nothing is funny. This is not funny. None of this is funny. Look at me. This is not funny. None of it is. It's not going to be funny. It's not going to stay funny. And believe me, The scariest part of all this is that he has already, I heard that feller is divorced that Melania and he's got himself a new wife. You want to meet her? Ha! We're gonna have our own little farm. We're gonna move up to Wyoming, and we're gonna raise chitlins, and I'm gonna birth them myself. And my name isn't Harriet Hagman. And let me tell you something. The one thing I learned from the Lord Almighty is that everything's going to work out exactly the way we want and nothing will go wrong. All right, listen, you guys. I got to tell you, I don't do defeatism. I never have. Been through too much real shit. And I'm not going to give up for the people that it matters to before the dude's even in the door. Okay? So... there is probably a period where you guys are going to have to, deal with this. We're all going to have to. My skin feels hot at different points during the day. I was like, I had those moments. I know you know what I'm talking about. You're like, is my skin having a premonition, right? And like I said this morning on the morning show, I had a similar feeling, right before COVID, right? Same kind of thing. But this too shall pass. And I truly believe Donald Trump is a self-destruct mechanism. We will be on top of him and all of his ilk. And I have to say, well, here, is it David Pakman? Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can open this up. Does this work? Does it play? Yeah, here you go.
To where we were.
Okay, so David Pakman has a video called "I'm Terrified." Is the left about to abandon politics? By the way, just in case you're keeping track, the right did abandon politics for, on January 6th, and that's what it turned into. So on a similar level, no. What he means is a voting bloc are they going to check out? Maybe. Some of them, sure. Are they going to realize that when Gaza is turned into a fucking parking lot, that they played a major part in that? Well, if they don't know, I'm going to be here to remind them. So here he is. Hold on. This is David Pakman, bless his heart. Concern grows that the left will abandon politics at the absolute worst possible time.
I'm going to tell you something that is terrifying me.
Stage 2 mustache. I'm messing with you right now. I'm not going to take anything seriously. I refuse to give these people my heart and soul right now. So, and by the way, just because words are used to lighten a subject does not mean that subject is taken lightly. You hear me? You know who I am as a person? We move on. Hit the like, by the way. Subscribe. I'm going to be here for a long fucking time.
Always try to come here and put a positive face on everything, but there is something going on that is terrifying me.
Gee, I wonder what that could be.
When I woke up this morning, we had lost 5,000 YouTube subscribers compared to where we were last night. Now,
he has 2.6 million subscribers. Wait a minute. Listen to that again. Hold on. Back it up here.
When I woke up this morning.
No. Sorry, I can't not do that. He has, a reminder, 2.6 million subscribers.
We had lost 5,000 YouTube subscribers compared to where we were last night. Now, the first thing I thought was, is this a glitch? We've been on YouTube for 15 years or something like that. And
Jesus Christ, is it going to take me 15 years to crack fucking 2 million subscribers? Is it just a fucking ladder after all this? Good Lord.
Subscribers always just go up. They just never go down. They go.
Yes, they do. What are you talking about? YouTube purges bots all the time. But when you have 2.6 million, maybe you don't notice unless something extraordinary happens. There's an association issue that we'll get to in a minute.
Go up.
I'm hearing him out.
Is something wrong with my channel? Is someone attacking my channel? What's going on? So I started texting. And I texted Brian Tyler Cohen. And I texted Tyler Cohen and Brian Cohen and Brian Tyler. All of them. I texted all of them. I texted Jesse Dollamore. I texted Luke Beasley and Farron Cousins and Sam Cedar.
So I'm just not in this this phone circle at all. I'm just saying, like, my name is never going to pop up in this. Just for the record.
And
why am I making fun of him? I'll tell you. I'll tell you why. Because I'm terrified. Is the left about to abandon politics? I'm not mocking him. I'm making a point specifically. Is the left about to abandon politics? Is the name of this title? Is the title of this video? And that's very. Well, I'll see where he goes with it, right? But
every single one of our channels since last night is hemorrhaging subscribers. What is it that is going on? Here is a graphic, as you can.
Oh my God. That's adorable. If I lost 5,000 subscribers in one shot, and I very well may have, the same bots that fucked off from their stuff may have fucked off from mine. I don't care. I talk to real people. But if that same graph, if this was 5,000 of mine, it would go like down to here. Like it would be a measurable percentage. What happened here in September, I guess, is the question.
You can see subscribers just go up, 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 and they are down.
Except when they went down or whatever. Okay.
It is not just YouTube subscribers. We are seeing record cancellations of paid memberships. Record cancellations. These are the people that keep the show running.
Okay, so this is an ad.
Now, for a moment, I thought, if it's just YouTube, maybe YouTube is purging.
Also, what's your record? I'm dead serious. If you've lost 5,000 subscribers and you lost some paid memberships or whatever, people are freaking the fuck out. They don't know what to do. If somebody, by the way, if you're a member of my channel or you're a Patreon subscriber or whatever, and you're like freaking out and you can't do it right now, okay. Right. If paid members are conserving their money to prepare for Trump's fuckery or something like that, good. This is the same shit I see from Glenn Beck, by the way. Glenn Beck does this with like, they're going after our channel and we're losing subscribers and you have to buy our fucking prepper food.
People who are inactive subscribers. And once a year, usually YouTube does this and you see a little decline and then numbers go back up. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. And if that were the case, we wouldn't be seeing paid membership cancellations on the website. So now I understand what is going on. It's terrifying, but it is happening. A lot of people are checking out. I heard anecdotally from a couple dozen people who said,
Also, anecdotally, whatever. But I got news for you. After something like this is a major fucking trauma. It's a big deal. Shit went sideways, and there's going to be some shit that comes with it that requires everybody to to weather some awful, like they know it's coming, right? And that's okay, right? Look, I get that this is your bread and butter or whatever, but I got to tell you, if you're in the political sphere, it's like, Jesus Christ, if you were like a Steelers, this is like as simple as you could get. You just run a Steelers fucking channel, or better off, Kansas City Chiefs. You do a Kansas City Chiefs channel, and they've been fucking, they finally won a Super Bowl, and they're gearing up, and they were going to win the next Super Bowl, and then they lost. I got news for you. You drop off everybody's radar for a while after that too. Just happens. And on the scale that he's got of people, like, that's nothing.
David, I just can't do it anymore.
By the way, I don't dislike David. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to get to what his point is.
I just can't do it. I'm checking out. I'm out. And the reason that this is terrifying, not only because it puts everybody in left-wing media's livelihoods at stake and at risk.
Oh, come on. Come on. No. It's the day after. It's the day. Let them go. They'll come back. Holy shit. Give everybody a goddamn break. That's what I said this morning. Like, if you can't watch the show right now, or you can't deal with how my take on stuff right now because it's a lot, I get it. I respect that. But like, there's no shame in it. Holy shit. And you don't owe me. None of you do. Not a single one of my viewers owes me their money or their existence or their super chats or any of that shit. Not a fucking dime. That's why my Patreon people are so awesome. It's because none of them like ask or require me to put any of my shit behind a paywall, so we can all talk openly, because that's the point of the show. And I like, it's weird, even, I don't know this was the topic of this conversation in this video, so I'm not even going to address any more of that, lest it seem like a similar ad thing right now. You know what I mean? Like, no.
Risk. It terrifies me because our instinct is the opposite of what the right does, and we will get crushed if this is the way we respond to a defeat. The right wants us not to exist. The right wants to decimate independent progressive media.
By the way, this is, you guys know I cover the right all the time. I don't really cover our side of the media sphere online. This is, I've shown you this dozens of times. This is the way the Blaze talks. This is the way Ben Shapiro talks. This is the way all right-wing media talks when they're on the downslope. Same shit.
And so when I lose 5,000 subscribers, and Brian loses thousands, and Ring of Fire loses thousands, and everybody's losing thousands of subscribers, understand that when the right loses, they get organized.
No, they don't.
They fund.
Not really, no.
And they create insanely effective organizations like Turning Point USA, investing in the Daily Wire and building out this huge network of right-wing ideas and influencers.
No, they don't. They get Russian money like Tenet Media.
So if you're feeling burnt out, I encourage you, take a break until the inauguration. It's months, okay? Mental health break, do it. But when we start canceling the subscriptions.
Okay, I can't. I can't. No. If you're going to take a mental health break, cancel all your fucking subscriptions. If you can't do it anymore and you're a Patreon of mine and you're having a fucking panic attack because you watch the money going out and you think the world's coming to an end and it's weirding you out, please, for God's sake, don't. Otherwise, it's not a fucking... I'm not asking... Like, how would you ask somebody to do a mental health break with their hand on the side of the pool? Like, I need you to go swimming, but never take your hand off the side of the pool. No. Again, it's funny that this exact reaction, I saw it on the right when Trump lost and post Jan 6. Saw the whole fucking thing. And again, this dude has 2.6 million subscribers. What do I have right now? 70,000? 70K? What's my fucking number right now? Let's see. View my channel. 76.5. I didn't lose a single fucking person. Not a one. I'm at the same goddamn number. So, I guess that's what happens when all your people are real and you don't have a sea of giant humans, and the bots, by the way, and other stuff that showed up on the accounts at the same time, all leave at the same time because mission accomplished. Right? So anyways, I find that very odd. Just saying. There's been a bunch of reactions or whatever, but the thing we will watch out for is, I've said this from the beginning, Trump is on a hard fade. That's not going to change. We saw it last night in the fucking speech. I played it on the air. I don't want to do it again because I would rather not go through it. He's going to have another, like, I don't want to go through like that lap again. Nobody needs to re-see any of this asshole stuff. But, and we will cover them plenty as they start, you know, putting together whatever their ideas are going to be. There is like, but he's not going to improve between now and January. He's not going to improve between January and June. And this time around, it's his last time. He's going to be judged. He's told everybody he can fix everything in 24 hours. And he can't say, I was new. I didn't know. I don't know anything. Now I know the good ones and I know the dumb ones, right? He said all that shit. So that he's more aware of the judgment than ever. Right? What time did you go to bed? I don't know, 4? So, this is, you know, again, this is going to be rough. It's going to be a very ugly thing. But I got news for you. I have my primary pieces of concern. The people that he considers the enemy, you know, within. But there's two groups. There's two groups I'm really concerned about. One is migrants in this country that are here under DED or TPS, temporary protected status. That you're gonna, you know, those people are gonna get rounded up first, because not only does JD Vance and all that crowd view those people as illegal immigrants, even if they've gotten TPS, even if they've gotten deferred enforcement. It won't matter now to them. And February is going to be fucked up for that crowd. And the bizarre aspect of the fact that Latino males brought us this in large part will be such a weird part of the story as it happens. And there's going to be a bunch of stories where the very people that voted for him, who are legal citizens, are going to end up being kicked out because Trump references Operation Wetback all the time. And that happened to American citizens. And that's why I would suggest, if you are, if English is your second language, if you live in a highly, migrant heavy area, if you are Hispanic, carry your passport with you at all times. Not necessarily because they're going to, papers please you, which they might do. That's certainly a reasonable thing. They're going to stop and frisk everybody, and they're going to check papers, please, in a bunch of these areas. But there's a bunch of these, like, half-assed, deputized maggot motherfuckers who are going to scoop up American citizens and chuck them over the border because they got a funny accent. The president gave us the power. They're just going to knock you over the head, drive you to Mexico, and drop you off. And if you don't have any papers or any way to get in contact with somebody, you're going to be stuck in another country. So just know that. Maybe once you get past the first 3 months of next year, you might be in the clear. Or they might just start getting ramped up. I have no idea how they're going to carry this out, or even if they're going to do it. So that's my primary group that I'm worried about. On obviously women, the focus has to be on the midterms, and that's it. Again, states are going to start floating around the midterms. The other states that want to outlaw abortion or take it off, that are going to focus on that period of time, and that will be on the ballot again. And we'll see if it matters to the majority of women in this country, whether or not they can get the health care they need in whatever state that they're in. Because currently it doesn't. It certainly doesn't matter to the to the Joe Rogan audience that meme voted this time and pumped this fucker up. Okay, so yeah. It matters to me still, and it matters to everybody I know. It matters to the women in my life, so I'm going to keep at it. And I'm going to, find every way to, the plot of Born in East LA, exactly. Well, that was a reference to something that Reagan was going to do. They were going to redo Operation Wetback and put that in, sorry if the word bothers anybody, but that's the name of the actual thing. So, that group in the United States, the biggest worry is American citizens and migrants certainly who are here on TPS and DED, but American citizens who are in the country and have an accent and might have, there's a bunch of people in Arizona, Texas, and of these other states that one member of their household might be undocumented, that kind of stuff, right? Who's going to do the work that migrants do? Robots. Trina, this is all part and parcel to a shift in production that Elon Musk and his ilk are all looking at. They are planning on replacing human labor with machines. They've been talking about it forever, and that's where Operation Wetback came from. So let me show you something real quick, okay? This is not an accident. Okay. The Operation Wetback was during the Eisenhower administration. 1.3 million people were rounded up and kicked out, and amongst them, a lot of American citizens. Okay, and this is they're not going to get. Let me tell you something. The Trump White House is not going to give a rat fuck. Yes, robots in orchards. I'll show you in a minute. The Trump White House is not going to give a rat fuck about Europeans and Russians and Swedes and Canadians or whoever the fuck, or even, quite frankly, Japanese or Korean people. Who else? Some Middle Easterners, right? Hence, back to the under Bush, that overstay their visas or come in here and start a business and are here early. They're not gonna give a rat fuck. They want to run out all what are effectively the working poor. Now, why now? Okay, this has been an aspect of things that's been, Operation Wetback by itself didn't occur in a vacuum. None of these things do. Okay, and the timing of it and the increasing kind of bubbling of it, it has been growing for a while now. So why? Okay, so this July is scorching in Mexicali. This is from the History Channel's page. The Mexican city just across the border from Calexico, California, averages 108 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, but temperatures often swell to the 120s. It's in 1955, yeah. Thousands of disoriented people roamed the city streets as the sun bore down on them. They'd just been dumped there by American immigration officials, snatched from their lives and jobs in the United States and thrown into a city where they didn't know anyone. These Mexican immigrants have been caught in the snare of Operation Wetback, the biggest mass deportation of undocumented workers in the United States history. As many as 1.3 million people have been swept up in the Eisenhower-era campaign with a racist name, which was designed to root out undocumented Mexicans from American society. Now, this 1.3 million is going to be their baseline. I guarantee that right now at Mar-a-Lago and other places, the people around Trump, specifically Stephen Miller and that crowd, are all. I'm sorry. I realized I'm not live on Instagram. I will pop up there now. You're watching Hal Sparks Megaworldwide, by the way. AKA your headquarters for Sparks for President 2028. Welcome to the show. And pardon my 50s French, but the 1.3 million number that you're seeing right here, 1.3 million people have been swept up in Eisenhower-era campaign with a racist name, which was designed to root out undocumented migrants, Mexicans from American society. Okay, that was Operation Wetback by the Eisenhower administration. Now, the short-lived operation used military-style tactics to remove Mexican immigrants, some of them American citizens, because they didn't care. That's what I'm saying. If you're a Hispanic male, especially if you're a roofing-age male, which they'll call military-aged, expect to be rounded up. Carry your passport with you all the time. If you're an American citizen, have your passport with you, because they won't give a fuck. And even if they look at it, they may just dump you, and at least you can get back in the country because you have your passport. Okay, so yeah. And by the way, people are like, there's messing with the ballots and they did it. I completely agree. Doesn't matter. It's that ship is effectively sailed in this situation, and currently there's no way around it. She has conceded and given a speech. Bless her heart. It was terrible that she had to go through that. I can't imagine what she's going through right now. She must be feeling like it's her fault, and it is absolutely not. It is ours. It is mine. It is. And by the way, if anybody needs somebody to blame, throw it my way. I'm good. That said, anybody who's Hispanic has an accent, because these assholes will not care what your accent is. Have your passport with you, or have a phone contact ready to go in case somebody scoops you up and you have a way to get back in the country. Okay, honestly. They're going to need to be like State Department connections for people. There's going to have to be lawyers that are set up to make sure that people that get scooped up in this can get back into their own home country. Okay, so that's one of my concerns. Okay, so here we go. From the United States, though millions of Mexicans had legally entered the country through the joint immigration programs in the first half of the 20th century, Operation Wetback was designed to send them back to Mexico. With the help of the Mexican government, which sought the return of Mexican nationals to alleviate a labor shortage, Border Patrol agents, which is currently the truth as well, although this was strictly Mexicans, now it's South Americans and a bunch of people from all over the place, right? You blame the Genocide Joe tribalist libs. Yeah, well, those guys did their damage as well. So along the way, they used widespread racial stereotypes to justify their sometimes brutal treatment of immigrants inside the United States. Anti-Mexican sentiment was pervasive. Harsh portrayals of Mexican immigrants as dirty, disease-bearing, irresponsible were the norm. During Operation Wetback, tens of thousands of immigrants were moved in or shoved into buses, boats, and planes and sent to often unfamiliar parts of Mexico, because a lot of them grew up here or never lived there, or when they came here when they were 10, where they struggled to rebuild their lives. In Chicago, 3 planes a week were filled with immigrants and flown to Mexico. In Texas, 25% of all immigrants deported were crammed onto boats, later compared to slave ships, while others died of sunstroke, disease, and other causes while in custody. Now, will that happen this time around? Probably not. But once they're dropped somewhere, does anybody think the Trump org will care? No. So, not clear how many U.S. citizens were swept up in Operation Wetback, but the United States later claimed that 1.3 million total people were deported. However, some historians dispute that claim, though hundreds of thousands of people were ensnared. The number of deportees was drastically lower than the U.S. reported, likely closer to 300,000. Due to immigrants, they're gonna claim this 1.3 though. Okay, that's the number that's being floated around the White House, or well, the Mar-a-Lago, the southern White House, whatever, where they're setting this team up. Due to immigrants who were caught, deported, and captured among the re-immigrating, it's impossible to estimate the total number of people deported under the program. And this is what they looked like coming into the country when they were brought in to do it. Now, why in 1954 was there this mass repatriation of Mexican migrants back to Mexico? Was it because people had just had it? Was there something specific that was the change? Yes. Giant threshers. Farm equipment started growing and improving around 1939, 1945. Like that window, stuff got a lot better. And you needed people to pick fruit, but you didn't need people to hoe the ground and push plows and that kind of shit. You needed those folks before that. At that point, you no longer did. So you needed some workers to do the picking of the fruit, which was the delicate work, but all the other work could now be done by machine. And that's why, at that point, they were like, everybody out. Does that make sense? This was not about, they didn't need that labor anymore. And because there was no system in place for people to come in, do the job, because it wasn't it had nothing to do with the like seasonal work, which is what it became for years. When I was growing up, and I think when most of you, like even people who think about migrant work, the way they think about it is who's going to pick the fruit, who's going to pick the strawberries, who's going to work in the orange groves, right? That's how most people think of it. And there's a reason for that. It's because at a certain point around 1954, previous to that time, the migrants did all of it. They worked the plows, they worked the ground, they planted the seeds, they did they lived in shanties and did all the manual labor of the farm. But after that point, you didn't need to do it anymore. You didn't need them anymore for that. You needed them to pick, so you would want to bring them in, have them do that, kick them back out, right? That was the idea. And that's what like Big Ag did for a long fucking time. Yes, grapes of wrath type shit. So in 1954, that was it. In 1954, they were like, okay, we have a giant thresher machine now to pull the wheat, and we have a giant plow that does 6 rows at a time. We don't need you guys anymore. Beat it. And there is a similar thing happening. We are entering that phase in history right now. And there is a parallel, as much as everybody sleeps on my Friday morning show with Rob about Friday I get it. People sleep on this shit, but I'm telling you, one of the reasons why they feel like it's time they can start expunging these people who all of these corporations have been using as under-the-table labor this whole fucking time. Because again, you could end the kind of low-wage labor that everybody bitches about from folks like that if you just throw the guys who hire them in jail, but they never do. Right? Okay? So, but they don't do that because they want the low-wage workers and they want it to be here. Now, with USMCA, a lot of that stuff moves back over there as well. Trump, even with his bullshit, like I have this friend who makes these great factories and the whole thing runs on a switch and it's completely automated. Well, we need those in America. Why? Why do you need them anywhere? Why don't you just put them on a fucking oil rig and let them run automatically? Instead of just sucking on the fucking power grid. Why does Michigan need 100% automation factory in it? What difference does it make? Dead serious. It's not like it adds jobs so it can hum all night. What are you talking about? So, needless to say, if I may, I'm trying to make a point that this is not happening in a vacuum. Okay? This is this is not, this is linked to an arc in history that we are at right now, where the automation of a shit ton of work is about to begin. And I've been talking about the advancements in robotics and all this stuff on the Friday AI show and how fast it is happening and what they are capable of. And the only thing you're going to need human beings for is interaction with other human beings. And most of the undocumented in our country who work under the table for a very low wage in dangerous, hot, sweaty conditions, for very low pay, all those jobs suck. And they are on their way to being automated. And so a bunch of these people are like, oh, okay, I can have my waiters and waitresses, my hostesses, my general staff that operates there. That's got to be a local. That's a decent job. Nobody minds that. Waiting tables and stuff personally in this area. But the kitchen staff, why don't we just turn that thing into a fucking machine? The chef can work in there, but all of his sous chefs can be machinery. Like, that's where they're going. And it was nearly impossible 6 years ago. It was like cold fusion. It was 20 years away all the time. We're 20 years away from it. We're always 20 years away from it. Now it's here. I'll show you what I mean. Now, a lot of folks don't, again, you guys miss my... Here it is. I'll put this in. A lot of you guys, you're adorable, but you miss my Friday AI morning show because you're like, yeah, but it's not the normal stuff that I do. And the reason I talk about this stuff is because this is the root of how a lot of these decisions are being made. If this makes any sense to you, okay? That Operation Wetback happened the way it happened because they were like, we don't need these guys to operate plows and stuff. We just need the fruit pickers now. Everybody get the fuck out. And now the rest of you are trying to muscle into other jobs that people actually want to have. That happened. Okay. Question in the staff chat. Okay. Let's see. Hell, what if Trump tries to stay after his 4 years? I personally don't think he will physically survive the entire term. If he makes it to the midterms, here's the thing. If he's still alive but has had a massive stroke, his sycophantic assholes will roll him around in a fucking chair like Admiral Pike in Star Trek. Literally, like, moving his mouth like, "Make America great again. Thanks, Dad." And they'll run shit. He's a fucking mess. I genuinely, and this is, I don't wish death on any human being. I just don't do it as a matter of course. Again, I've always said that if God wants someone to die really badly, they'll make them do something awful right in front of me in a cinder block. As long as I have access to the cinder block, obviously this is a meeting of the fates. But in the abstract, I believe in our legal system and everybody should be tried. Now that's another thing for another time with him, whatever. But I'm dead serious. I don't think he's going to make it. Honestly. This isn't wishful thinking at all. This isn't it. Like, he's a fucking mess. And I told you, like, his cadavering has gone on for a while. And it's gotten precipitously worse lately. And now, if he's supposed to, like, well, you got to get all the shit done. Day one, motherfucker. All of his supporters are like, okay, day one, motherfucker. That's a lot of pressure that he did not have the first time. He could bullshit his way through it. He was used to it. So we'll watch that happen in real time. No question. He's not in perfect shape. He's a fucking mess. It's hilarious. Okay, let me show you something. You want to see who's in perfect shape? That's a great transition. This is figure 2. This is a humanoid robot made by the people at ChatGPT. Figure 1 was just shown off about 3 months ago. I was about to say 8 weeks, but about 3 months ago. And it didn't have legs. It was just an upper body. Hi. No, I did not forget you, Gonzo. It's been a while. See this thing's hands? Yeah. This is figure 2. By the time there's a figure 5, these things will be bought like fucking junk. And these things, this is just the 4th generation, and it's only the 2nd model. Because of ChatGPT and large language models and machine learning having this massive advance last year, and this is them working in a BMW factory already. Digit, the other robot that's being sold commercially that's already out there, is already working in a factory in the United States in Georgia. You know what's special about these workers? They're not citizens either. They don't pay taxes. They don't need a health care plan. They don't sleep. They are terminators that do one thing. They terminate jobs. And like I said, here, I'll show you. Now I'll show you here's the new, the Boston Dynamics robot. Remember Boston Dynamics, guys? The one that could do a flip and everybody's like, oh, fuck. Here we go. Right? And the whole thing was it was dancing and it could do, here, shit, I'll show you that one too. Because I'm making a very important point, kids. None of us know what our world will look like in 5 years. This is beyond anything that has anything to do with Trump at this point. They're going to be caught off guard by this as well. I'm telling you. Can they? Yes, they can pick Florida oranges. Yes. And they don't get tired, and they don't have to sleep, and they can do it at the best time of the day, and they can be on tracks, right? They don't have children. They don't have to feed their families. They don't make fucking phone calls. They sure as shit will not strike. So hold on one second. Let me show you this. This is why now. This is why this. Hold on. Boston Dynamics. We're all familiar with the big Boston, the dogs, right? The Boston Dynamic dogs, right? Okay. But I think a lot of people just know the Atlas. So here you go. Let me show you this. This is what you probably know. This is what you probably know as the Atlas. This is the one where people are like, holy shit, it's the Terminator. This thing that can do gymnastics. Now, that thing is fucking obsolete because it uses pneumatic pressure to do movements, right? Think about this for a second. Just think about that thing. Why the fuck do you need low-wage workers for anything if you have these things making these things? Why are we talking about robots? Because this is why Trump is going to be doing his second generation of Operation Wetback. And this is also why a lot of migrants who are here, who become citizen, are pulling up the fucking ladder behind them. This is why. It's not just at random. There is an organized reality behind their plan. And that's why Elon Musk has been all over this shit. As a matter of fact, he'll more than likely be responsible for they'll use Grok to spot people who are here, without documentation, illegally. And the idea that we do stuff in China and China's taking our jobs or Mexico's taking our jobs won't fucking matter. These things are going to take your job. Those jobs are gone in 5 years. That's what I said. Trump's not going to make it through his first fucking term. But everybody who's in that administration is going to be dealing with the reality that they're going to be staring down the barrel of a bunch of idle Joe Rogan fans who can't get a fucking job. No, this is not Figure One. This is Atlas, okay? So let me show you this guy. This is Atlas. He's noisy as shit, and he's got pneumatic joints, air compressors, basically. So he's very loud, okay? That was the thing about it, but amazing. Okay, so those are all the Boston Dynamics robots we've seen. There's the big dog. That's the one you keep seeing him kicking, and you're like, why the fuck are they kicking this thing? And there he is running around in the woods. Hear that? Okay, you hear that? And you're like, oh, that's hilarious. And he's having trouble walking, and yeah. That was 4 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the current form of Atlas that does not use hydraulic muscles, that is simply electric. And that fucker, that noise you're hearing is the factory, not him. Watch his upper torso. Now, if he's just, watch his body turn around. That's what he sees. That's the view from his eye on him. And there's like an antenna on the top of his head that connects to ChatGPT. Oh, somebody said Amazon workers? Oh, no, no, no. No, the Amazon workers, that's Digit, and those are already in place. And then they've got these, carts that go around. This is not fake. This is absolutely real. This one is not made in China. This is Boston. This is Boston Dynamics. Yeah, I've seen the G1. I'll show you in a minute. Yeah, no lunch breaks. They get maintenance, not health care. They can adapt to the circumstance. Will it clean your house? Yes. Well, this model is probably too industrial for cleaning your house. You want to see the one that's going to clean your house? Hold on one second.
Anyone that follows humanoid robots has been patiently...
Hold on. This is somebody else's video. One second. I want to find their actual channel. Here it is. Yeah. So 1X is a company. They're in, I want to say, the Netherlands. This is Neo. This is the beta version of it. This is the one this is the pre-release version. I'm going to tell you something about this robot before you see it. This is a real robot, not a person. It's got a suit on because it's still prototyped. But listen to me, like, this is important, right? Yeah, this thing, watch how it moves. I'm going to show you what it does. And then I want you to know that these things will be making other robots. This is the primary beta, the original one, is going to, they make them physically weak so they can't strangle you. The new ones have 50 pounds of pressure, which would be enough for a child or a pet, I suppose, which would be scary. But usually their hands will crack before that happens. That's what they're designed for, depending on the environment that they're in. So you have them designed so they can't do certain things. That's the idea. And they walk slowly, not because they can't walk fast, but because you can outrun them. That's the goal. I'm dead serious. They're designed to do it. Now, yes, it has no rights. It has no freedom of speech. It has no nothing. Again, yeah, this is I'm explaining something as to why they feel like now is the time to do the big mass deportation, and why it has historical parallels in Operation Wetback, and why they decided we're done with all these farm workers, get them the fuck out of here. Now, watch this guy.
Yeah.
That's 2 months ago. That's the beta version. Okay? They already have other variations on it. That's 2 months ago. Also, I'm named after a computer, so I fixate on these things. Can they build a home? Yes. That's the other thing. Again, this is why I keep talking about how when they say military age male, I call them roofing age males, because that's what most people who come over here do now is they work on houses. They build stuff. They are, okay, so last month, and this is not an accident, guys. This is not out of nowhere. And by the way, Elon Musk's Gen 3 Optimus ain't that fucking great by comparison to others, but it's already working, I want to say, in a BMW or in the Tesla factory. Let's see if I can show you. This is the 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So, okay. So he put out this bullshit video. So I showed some of this, and a lot of this is hand controlled by somebody else, and I'll show you. He had this party at fucking on a back lot, and they're showing what it can do. This is all the same footage that's ripped off from this other Chinese robot that we've seen before, or the Uni or the G1. They're $20,000 price point for most of these things. ChatGPT connected, and they can do a lot of stuff. And not the least of what, by the way, this is all. He's got people actually operating them like puppets, but that's how they learn, and that's how it will grow. This is. There we go. See if the point is, they will work in situations like this, building the cars and that kind of stuff. So the idea that you're going to have a factory someplace and to get jobs is an obsolete fucking concept within 5 years. Within 5 years. Yeah, his Optimus shit was bullshit. But the Neo and the G1 and even the Chinese Unitree, which is a piece of shit, and the Boston Dynamics one, they could all do this stuff already. The Boston Dynamic ones are already, just like the Cybertruck was 40K, right, Hal? Well, it doesn't matter. The Unitree is already at that price point. So that's what that's the competition price. And none of them are going to be any better than the rest for a while. I mean, they're just going to grow like everything else. They're going to expand because there's limitations on servos and size and all that kind of shit. So I'm trying to tell you that Operation Wetback, when it was originally done in 1954, was not just because everybody had decided, fuck this, I'm tired of all these Mexicans here. I'm sure there were a bunch of those people. Don't write off the racism at all. But there was a material reason behind it that was bigger. And that was, they used to do a bunch of work and we don't need them anymore. And now they're just hanging around and they're going to take other jobs that we want to keep for our people. So, right? That's it. I'm telling you. And now, in fucking 4 years, we have gone from, I don't want to show the Tesla version of this dipshittery. Yeah. Back to this one. Yeah. We have gone in 4 fucking years from this to this. Do you understand? This is why, the whole idea that, the argument that we often make, like, you want stuff to be, no, I'm not an Elon fanboy at all. He's a fucking dipshit. All of his stuff is derivative. Boston Dynamics is killing it. Neo is Neo's company is a great one. There's like 3 other companies. He's just dovetailing behind him. Tesla's bullshit. I mean, it's his. I'll tell you what. Most of his shit, if you watch Elon Musk's stuff, it looks exactly like the Chinese Unitree ads right after. Here, I'll show you. Hold on one second. Let me go back to here real quick. This is why this is important, because that's why they think they can do it. This is why they think they can get a why it's gonna happen, and that they're already behind the fucking. It's already well beyond its phase point where we're behind the 8 ball time wise on this shit. I'll show you the Unitree real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. So everything you see from Elon Musk is just like Trump. He's a fucking, everything's a goddamn reboot. Okay? So this guy, there's a Chinese company that knocks off everybody else's shit. They're Unitree. They make a version of the Boston Dynamics dog you can buy for $1,500. That's the one that I showed Glenn Beck showing that had the flamethrower on its back. Okay. If you didn't see that, that's what you get for sleeping on my AI show. God damn it, Fridays in the morning. And you better start watching, because I'm telling you, we got bigger fish to fry than fucking Trump. And he's going to be swamped because he's too fucking stupid to understand any of this shit. And his right-hand man, Elon, is a phony fucking fake billionaire. Just like him. This is the Unitree robot. This is its gate, which is far superior to to Musk's already. That's their dog. That's the Unitree dog. That thing right there. Okay, so the Boston Dynamics version of that thing costs somewhere in the order of $40,000, $50,000. Now, it's industrial grade, and it can do all kinds of shit, and it can lift things. This thing is $1,500. It's made out of hard plastic, but it can do a bunch of shit. 9 a.m. on Fridays. Friday Eye. Okay? These are the cheap Chinese knockoffs. But what you need to know about the cheap Chinese knockoffs is 8 days after they launch something, Elon Musk has one just like it. Because that's where his fucking factory is. This thing can now contact ChatGPT. It learns to grow and walk and move and everything. Look at that fucking thing. Look at this guy hitting it with a stick and it can't fall over. Do kung fu. Okay, it broke his fucking stick on the thing. I don't know why he feels like that's a good thing. But it can keep itself stable. Extreme testing, no imitation. Features vary by models and versions. We kindly request that all users refrain from making any dangerous modifications using the robot in a hazardous manner. You mean like the asshole who put a fucking flamethrower on the goddamn thing? The dog, you guys want to know what the dog's for? You guys want to know what the dog's for? Mm-hmm. Here you go. Check this shit out. There he is. What's that on his back? That's a little tank. What's it attached to? It's got a laser aiming system. Right there. Well, what's the laser for? What does it aim? Well, I guess anything you'd want to. Now, a gun's very hard because it has blowback, so it might be hard, but we already shown that he can be hit with a fucking stick until the stick breaks. And it still can hold its position. And if it repositions itself, from Rob, can I jump on a bit tonight if I want to partner on this? Absolutely. That would be wonderful. Let me open up my my VDO. Because I got to say, like, when they talk about these historic things they want to recreate, it's not in a vacuum. And even though Trump is fucking stupid and has no concept of fucking history at all and can be a dipshit, there it is, flamethrower, that's it. This is, Rob, you can hop in on the VDO if you want. Yeah, look at this fucking thing. 3D printers, you can modify it? Absolutely. By the way, the flamethrower part of it is they would use this for fire abatement in areas where you would send in fire crews to burn areas that need to be pre-burned in case there's a wildfire. That's the peaceful use for it. And by the way, this arc flamethrower thing that this guy has, you can see it right there, and that all they did was take it off a gun that this guy has and modify it and add it to one of these dogs. The point I'm trying to make is, let's see if I can, is that, there we go. Yeah, here's the Boston Dynamics. This is how it started. There we go. That was their original design. This is them, and they had to learn, this is the other thing, holy shit. So these things had to learn, by the way, don't you feel better already? Aren't I already making you feel better? Even though I'm basically showing you what the issue will be in our future, because it's coming really fucking fast. I mean, and I'm named after a computer, so get with me. So this is the original Boston Dynamics dog, the big dog. And they made all these jokes about it, and it could walk, and you could keep it from being kicked over. And the idea is you give these things, these guys are wacky. You give these things to the army or something like that, and they can run in, and if you've got an injured soldier, you can put the soldier on its back and it will walk out over uneven terrain, or it can bring, in 2012, it was used to bring ammo into places. But these were pneumatic, so they would go, how, how. Now, the Army doesn't mind, because hundreds of those things, if they made them and sent them out there, would be fucking scary as shit, right? Having these things, Al, I'm feeling terrified, actually. I'm sorry, Sujan. Believe me, this has a bizarrely odd happy ending, I promise. Okay, so here's them trying to get their thing to walk. This is years ago. 1992, through all this stages and all this kind of stuff, and they finally get to, what do they have in here? Here's the dog, right? Here's the dog. That's it. The Unitree is a knockoff of this thing. They just stole the concept, stole the cheap sensors, cheaper body, commercially available in 2020 already, right? $74,000 for that thing. The Unitree one is $1,500. These things have sensors on them, so you can send them into dangerous zones if there's potential in, mines and shit like that, where there's leaks and that kind of, right? They can be guard dogs, they can be sensors, they can be roving cameras, all that kind of shit. I love how it works in a hospital. Like, what the fuck is that? I don't know. These people are weird. And they're being silly and all this kind of stuff. But it goes and it checks the sensors on stuff in areas where, let's say you had a meltdown or something and you had to bring, somebody in or take somebody out. This would be the thing that could do it. And it can 3D map things. There's its little arm. It's dragging a cement block. It can plant a plant. Okay. It eats nothing. It just needs battery. There it is. Like flipping a switch, opening a door, doing those kind of things. I mean, the bomb squad in a bunch of places have come up with these things. There's friendly NASA stuff. There you go, working with JPL, and then 80%, 880,000. Here you go. Wait 1 second. 100%. This is their how much? This is their rolling atlas. All the software was designed off these guys. That kind of shit. That's pretty normal now. You can get the Atlas. They're packing robots. And that's the Boston Dynamics, which all started with the big dog, trying to walk on ice like Bambi. I got your mind off all the other problems? Hey, that's what I'm here to do. Now, so this is the dance thing that I was telling you about. They show these videos of it dancing. And by the way, robots do not and cannot dance. Dancing is an interpretive thing that the music has an impact on people, and people dance. Sometimes animals can even dance. I would argue robots just recreate motions, even if they're pulling those motions from someplace else. Look at that guy. Boink. That's just gross. Okay. So, and by the way, all of these, with the exception of the big dog, the little dog right here, are obsolete now. How the show went from the nightmare with Trump to winning to the end of humankind. No, it's not the end of humankind. It is not. This is the end of painful work. This is the end of necessary manual labor. Doesn't mean people can't do manual labor, right? There's a difference between somebody who works in a fucking IKEA factory and somebody who makes wooden furniture by hand and sells it. I would think we would all agree, yes? And it can matter. I have that carbon fiber guitar that was 3D printed, and if it breaks, who gives a shit? But it is not as special as my 69 Les Paul that I've had forever. Yes? That's chosen work versus necessary work. And before, chosen work, necessary work, meant that most humans on this planet, because the effort necessary and all the money necessary and the time and the limited number of people who could do stuff, even if it's just luthiers, getting a guitar and keeping it for your life was a big fucking deal. Now they're everywhere, right? That's what's happened, okay? Because a lot of the hard work of doing that has been automated over time. Rob's going to jump in. Hey, Rob, hold on. Let me pull you in here. Because I'm trying to make, I think, what I believe to be a great point about how a lot of the shit that we're seeing. I'll move out the major. He was full of piss and vinegar this morning, and rightly so.
I don't want to steal any of the major's valor.
Yeah, no, not at all. But and then I'll put you in here. Dink. There you are. How are you, my brother? I love you, and you're awesome, and I want to say hi right off the top. And I know everybody's dealing with their shit, and I will.
Yeah, I love you too, brother.
My stuff will be to help people deal with their shit, and the fact that we are staring down the barrel of the biggest shift in humanity we have seen in forever. Now, let me put you in here too, so we can look at some of this stuff together.
I've been kind of thinking about everything that's going on right now in the context of what we talk about on Fridays.
Right.
And I think it goes even further than this. Like, it goes into, what we talk about with bots and, foreign influences. And, Musk is connected to all of this stuff.
Yes, he is.
Robotics, Tesla.
That's exactly right.
Twitter, Grok, like all this stuff is interconnected. And
yeah,
I think
well, that was
it
right.
connects to kind of it's. I think it does starts to help explain some of the stuff that went on in the last day or two, but also in the last few months.
Right.
And also, it's a very strange line that Trump's going to have to walk.
Yeah.
Across
I don't think he is capable of grasping what it is at all. So he's going to have all these fucking people around. He might be the first president that gets a fucking Neuralink. This motherfucker has a stroke late next year, and Elon's like, I got this, and they fucking Neuralink this motherfucker. I mean, we live in the dumbest fucking timeline ever, so I would not rule that out at all. Right?
Yeah. Well, you're talking about robotics now. One of the interesting things there, you're right. They start to tie together. But the line in this case that I'm talking about that needs to be walked is, robotics is advancing quickly because the foundational elements are already there. It's the electromechanical devices, the motors, the servos, the PC boards, the processors, all that stuff. Well, we don't have the infrastructure to build those things. We have some, but nowhere near what is needed to make them at mass. And almost all of that stuff comes from China right now. So Musk owns, quote unquote, a factory in China, which he does not. The Chinese government
owns 51% in it, right? Minimum, if he owns any of it.
How in the world is this tariff thing going to work when he's got to carve out all of the stuff that's got to go into these things? And this technology is moving right along. It's not going to stop. And Musk's seat at the table, it's him basically trying to be the first contract. Like he wants to be, because
he knows it's coming
through him.
Right. He knows it's coming.
Somehow, some way, they're going to have to carve out these like very odd paths for some things and not others, because he's been promising to go hard on China and he's been promising a lot of stuff. And I don't know how he's not going to fulfill the promises.
Mike Johnson walked back his repeal of the CHIPS Act thing that he said because he blamed it on his ears. They're not gonna fucking repeal that at all. And the other thing is the problem that that China has right now is that nothing is cheaper than automated labor. And so once what they did was they got a lot of this technology and they just started ripping them off and just did these dogs and copying the robot dog from Boston Dynamics and shit like that, and then they just make more of them. They just fart them out. The problem they have, and we've talked about this before, is they don't have access to the large language models on a commercial scale the way we do in the United States, because they're not a free society. So the government won't just let you fuck around with a large language model because they want to be there watching what you're doing with it, right? They don't want you to get ahead of them. Whereas in the United States, we're far too lax on that. I'd say we're way too free with that shit. But once it's done, it's done.
Trump did hard on China, but he was playing back and forth. He made the deal with China for grain, soybeans, whatever, pork.
Yes.
But then he also tariffed the crap out of a bunch of stuff. And he's been talking about tariffs as being the cornerstone of his economic plan.
Right.
So where's the tariffs mostly go to China because most of our stuff comes from there.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's my question. If robots do the work, who gives a fuck where it happens? Because it's not like we need to bring these jobs here. If a robot's doing the job, why not just put it out in the middle of the fucking desert? It won't help Detroit. It won't help any of this, right? It's that, and increasingly that's what they're talking about.
Is more controlled, so it wouldn't necessarily benefit from the humanoid robots as much as like you were talking about picking things in fields. Yeah, and it is like there's nowhere near the infrastructure in the U.S. to build those things here at the mass that would be needed to replace the jobs, and they're not quite ready to be out in fields picking, but they're pretty close. And And the infrastructure
That's why I said 5 years.
and the capital needed to make that happen is ginormous.
Right.
And so where is that going to come from? If it comes from the Bezos and the Musks of the world in this like crazy, Rockefeller age industrialist kind of thing.
New robber baron thing, right?
Yeah, then that's an odd thing that's happening. I mean, it's already kind of happening with rockets, right?
Yes.
Rockets is kind of the starting point of this sort of government tech bro kind of partnership. And, that starts to get strange. But that's how it all's going to come.
Yeah. And so my point in that anecdote he kept telling about that buddy of his who builds factories, and he's like, you throw a switch and the whole thing just works. There's like 9 people in the whole factory. And he was bragging about the fact that these are the best factories. The best factories are built in Mexico, and there's no humans in them, basically. And at that point, you're like, well, then you're not going to bring any jobs to the United States if you have them here. Yeah. Who gives a shit where they're parked? If it's going to be, if that's the weird part, that's the disconnect that is going to slowly over the next year start connecting in the mind of these maggots. Because you can move these, once you have an automated factory, and you're right, they're not ready yet, but that's why I said 5 years. Over the course of the next 4 years. And then at the 5-year mark, pow, like everywhere. All at once, because the availability,
the cost of a single humanoid robot now, and the cost will be cheaper then, but marginally. The I'll call it the functionality will increase faster than the price drops. A lot of hardware these days, they send the hardware out, and the hardware is like with changes in software and firmware, you can manipulate how well that hardware works out in the field. So, everybody who made all their money in software and realized they didn't need to actually have a perfect product. They would just send you garbage and just update it every 3 days, right? Until it finally worked. Hardware is kind of at that place because the motors and the joints, they don't change. They're just out there. And what does change is how you control them, right? So that thing, the number of those things and getting them out there and doing that thing, that's going to take a ton of bread to capitalize, I think is what the Ghostbusters said. Yes.
Yep. and governments are the best source of that money. And that's all of Elon Musk's shit. Everything's a fucking government contract with that motherfucker.
If you start linking, we're going to get rid of all the migrants, we're going to replace them with robots. You can convince a whole lot of Republicans about that because they already hate the migrants, right? But once you start saying we're going to replace your assembly job.
That's right.
If there's one thing that a union worker does, the one word a union worker does not like, it's robots.
Yeah.
And there's a certain level of there's a certain level of automation. You shouldn't go beyond to put a factory that makes the same thing over and over and over again. You can invest in setting up the robots to do that. But something that's making smaller quantities, it's not actually worth it to do that. That's why things are made in China now, because the labor to capital formula works out better that way. And it's true that in order to bring jobs back to the US and keep the prices the same, which is what we always talk about with this inflation thing, the only possible way to do that is replace the slave labor with robotic labor.
That's
automation.
Automation,
it's the only way. If you don't do that, everything gets more expensive.
Yep.
Which
and there's an arc of
tariffs anyway.
For the short term to get to this point, and then it falls off a cliff again. All technology is deflationary, and this is something that everybody, even in the tech sector, fights with all the time because it's controlled obsolescence. Your product's going to be useless in 2 years because that's how shit develops. This right here, I'm showing this is a thing called Torso by Clone, and it is another way of making a robot move that has flesh-like tendrils. And so this is one of their first tries. So it's a little looser, but eventually they will tighten all those things up, and it will move just like muscles. Just grasp for a second how far along this is. And the reason it's this far along, because it wasn't, this is 2 fucking weeks ago. This company didn't exist last year. Most of the advances in robots we saw with Boston Dynamics and that evolution of Boston Dynamics that I showed earlier, this thing when they're showing their little movie that these are the ones that are around at the end of the video, which are already obsolete. But this is for their design phase for the original dog that they were building for the government to carry stuff. It went 5 miles an hour. It was, it was noisy and did all this shit. That was in 1992 to now is how long all this shit went. This company didn't exist last year. The Boston Dynamics new version of the Atlas didn't exist last year. The Neo didn't exist last year. The Optimus existed last year, but it was a dude in a costume. It was a fake. He was bullshitting his way to get ahead of the line on everybody else. Yeah, and you're damn straight it looks like Westworld. That's what they're going for.
Yeah. That's what they're going for. Yeah, I mean, the look of it is inconsequential. Like the look of this, they're trying to get it to look more human on purpose. Yeah. But it doesn't matter what it looks like as long as it functions.
Right. And well, what's the function? What's the function for a flesh bot? What's the function for a flesh bot? They're gonna. I mean, at a certain point, what jobs are left over to human beings after manual labor goes out the window? Honestly, sex.
And this is what we have to start talking about. Like we can't hide from it. It's happening.
Right.
We either choose to continue to go to China and use almost $0 labor, or we do this. Those are your two choices.
Yeah, you can enslave a bunch of Uyghurs, or you can do this.
Switch out too. Yeah.
Yep.
Or name your country that. You just keep jumping countries, like trying to find lower labor costs.
Right.
And eventually you're going to run out. Like there's only so much production that the world can make, and it's all used right now. Well, maybe China's got a lot of excess, but that's because COVID kind of screwed them up pretty bad. At any rate, the key to the Elon Musk thing is he wants to be in the front of the line. Yep. For SpaceX, for AI with Grok. He wants to be using Grok for the military. He wants to be using Starlink for everybody. And he just wants to be at the front of the line. It's that simple.
Yep. See this guy move this box right now? So while its back is turned, this is really simple. This is on Halloween. They just made this trick-or-treat Atlas thing. It walks over, and it sees that the thing is moved, and it doesn't care. Puts it right in the position it was in. That's what they're showing, is that it can still do its job even if the timing has changed. And it's like, hey, wait a second, this got stuck. That's funny.
Yeah, and there's another video I've seen where they show the view from the robot's camera in its head. And you can see basically it starts to do, if anybody's used if driven in a Tesla or seen maybe a Rivian, and you see that it recognizes things and then sort of creates those things on the screen, kind of like a video game. It does that sort of it sees something and then it identifies it. And then it was putting something, what it was showing with that last one, which is interesting, is most of the time you pre-program where your slots are. But if you've got a humanoid robot and a cart that moves and different parts go in different slots, it needs to recognize which slot it goes in. And it also needs to recognize if it's lined up and stuff. And that last part that was in there, it missed. And it recognized that it missed. It stopped. It pulled back. It kind of jiggered and went in. And one of the things that we deal with in our company when we produce parts, it's interesting. People think about speed as being important. When you have robots, when you're automating something, speed is not as important because it always runs. So what's important is that it's reliable and it keeps going. Yeah. Because a human can't stand there for 24 hours, but a robot can, right? Yep. So you want to be using all the time you have in the day, and you want it to be reliable. So speed is actually the last thing you want to do. You want to speed it up after you figure all that stuff out. Yeah.
This is, and again, this is clearly I think what I'm trying to get across to people is not that you're like, well, what would this be for, and that kind of stuff. It reminds me of that scene in Real Genius where they're like, what would you use? They're talking about the laser they managed to come up with, and he goes, I figure you reached up to 6 megawatts. What would you use that for? And like making enormous Swiss cheese? But he's like, no, they're going to use it to kill people from space, right? They figured it out, and the engineers have already figured out a reason for it that it's specifically designed for. Even in this particular point, there's a guy riding one of these things later to show its capacity to hold up weight, and therefore it can be a pack mule. It could just carry shit, right? It's just important, right?
Well, these are all interrelated. So if a robot does a job, or if it, let's just call it automation for the sake of keeping it more generalized.
Yes.
That's actually a way to bring down the cost of goods.
Yeah.
Because the labor charge,
it already is,
labor
right,
goes away. So one way to decrease inflation is actually to invest in automation. Another thing you can do is you can just make more of them faster, right? Like all those things. So these choices that we're making, the CHIPS Act, it's the infrastructure that gives you the things that go inside of that robot. And, we need motor factories. We need things that wind things. We need wind motors. I mean, we need PC board manufacturing. We need metal, like all the materials that go into there. We need infrastructure to be able to have those materials either start here or come in and be ready and available to do these things.
Right.
And there's this concept of like, oh, we're just going to bring everything back to America, and every American wants to do that, but we can't. We don't have this.
And by the time you do, it will be obsolete. Right. By the time you do, like if you're going to bring all those winding factories and all that kind of shit over here, the reason you're doing it is to build these robots that will do this stuff, or these automation things to do it. And then as soon as you have that shit, why would you bring the jobs home? You already have. It's, you know what I mean? You will like a lot of this.
Jobs are actually setting them up and building the factory, and that's where the jobs are. I mean, if you look at like the 80s, the 90s, like when we started moving things to China, the stories were, well, I had to take my screw machine or my CNC machine, and they took it to China, and I taught that person how to do my job, and now I don't have the job anymore. That was a story that. I'm from Rockford, Illinois, and that was like a big tool and die place. And a lot of Chinese and Japanese companies came in, just bought the factory and just moved all the equipment over there and then trained their people. So my point is to say it probably took 10 to 15 years to migrate enough things over there to make that work. It's going to take 10 years to migrate it back or more, unless you speed it up with things like robotics, right? Like, but still, it's no small feat. And Trump couldn't even think about passing an infrastructure bill. Like he didn't even know what it was, right?
Right.
The amount of investment that is needed to make that stuff here is insanely huge.
Yeah. I don't think people can grasp this. Here's the thing. Right now we're using for large we know that iPhones for a short time were being assembled, and again, made in China versus assembled in China is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a big, it's a huge difference, and it's a distinction that people often use without a difference, but it is hugely different. And for a long time, they were using Uyghur slave labor to assemble some of those phones. And we found that out, and Foxconn got caught doing it, and Apple, was horrified, and everybody made a stink about it, and they stopped. Great. And the price of iPhones went up. And then they, then they went, okay, we're going to have to move some of these assembly plants to Mexico, which they did. So a bunch of iPhones are now made in Mexico because the labor costs are cheaper than they were in China, minus the slave labor. It turns out the only reason China had a cheaper wage, for their workers was because they augmented it with slave labor.
Right.
Okay. So so they moved it to Mexico. There's factories in Mexico, and so there's Fabrico Mexicano, that on there now is made in Mexico, which is an assembly thing. Fine. that's closer than it was, and the supply chains are shortening. That's going to take time. But I got to say, over time, you move some of those things here, and then it starts to just kind of build on itself after a while. Exactly. And again, once you have the robotics making the robotics effectively, which is not that far off. Again, that's why I think it's 5 years, because within 2.5 years, 3 years, you're really going to see this seeded here in the States or in Canada or in Mexico, really close by. Stuff where we can keep it close so people don't steal it. Okay?
Right.
And that's all it's for. That's the only reason you keep it, close, is so people don't rip it off. And then it just starts making it and making it. Let me show you something real quick. There is let me show you this lovely lady. I want to.
And I'll say that the jobs involved in doing that are very large. Like, there's a lot of jobs involved in getting that going and setting it up and training, and it's a different kind of job.
Yes,
a lot of union workers in auto factories and machine shops and things like that, they had to sort of learn how to transition with their technology. The same is true of this. Like, we'll transition those jobs.
Mm-hmm. See this lady's arm?
Is what I'm saying.
See this lady's arm? Okay, she has no fingers on her left hand. She was burned, I believe, and then the second one, she has she's amputated at the mid arm, and so this thing is attached, and it has. She can move it and hold things just stiff if she wants, but it also has controls inside of it that are attached to what are effectively electrodes in the end of it that now through ChatGPT and other stuff, she can actually direct it through speech if she wants to, or through tensing muscles in the base of her stump, really. And so and the way they trained this thing so that it's increasing, this is a year ago. This is a year old. This video, whatever, is just her, using it to hold things and cut and whatever, and grabbing things with it. And it's very slow in that she's going to position it, and then it will move a little bit. It's very clunky. That was a year ago. Now they are using NVIDIA's Eureka to train it so that it can operate, and you can say to it, it'll have a sensor in the palm and a sensor on the back, and you'll have this thing, and you'll go grab the mouse, and it'll put its hand on the mouse or whatever, and then as you're thinking about stuff, wherever your eye goes, it will move the cursor to follow your eye based on it reading where the mouse is and where your eye position is. That kind of stuff. This is enormous, and again, it's going to come so fucking fast.
So I maybe I could float, if you'd allow me to float around just a little bit. I was on with you last night a little bit, and we were just kind of seeing the stuff people are talking about today, this sort of post-election kind of everybody trying to figure out what happened and all this stuff. To me, I think that the top maybe three things are integral to each other. The economy,
immigration.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And there's a third one. Let's just use those two for a second. Economy and immigration. Those two things are based in the opinion of the people who voted in Trump's direction. It's entirely based on lies. And misinformation, I guess you would say, but lies perpetrated by Trump. It's not true that there are as many immigrants as he says there are. It's not true that they're murdering people. It's not true that the borders are open and all this stuff.
Right.
Same thing with the economy. We talk about the economy a ton. Why does everybody think the economy is terrible when by all metrics it's good? It's because they're telling them every single day on Fox News. So why wouldn't they, right? So my point with this is that the method that is being told to people is coming entirely through social media, through phones, through all this stuff, and we basically got Brexit. Brexit did.
Totally.
We got Brexited, and we did. It happened in 16. It happened in 20. It was happening. It's been happening for 4 to 8 years. And so how do you fix that? And a lot of people are like, well, we can't, Dems need to make their own Fox News. And it's Dems' fault that this happened. And I fully disagree with that. Like, how can you compete with the flood of lies that people choose to believe? You can't convince them.
It's because of a finite amount of truth. That's the the problem you're up against, is that there is a finite amount of truth and an infinite number of lies.
Yes. So how do you fix that? You make everybody not have, you outlaw bots, or you tell them when it's fake. And we've talked about this before. That deluge of everything that people see, it will be cut at least in half, probably 3/4, if you simply just told everybody that it wasn't a real person telling them that, or it wasn't. It was an outside actor. It was a foreign actor. But all of this stuff that's building up these stories, it's Elon Musk's Twitter funded by Russia. Like, it's so obviously in front of us. And so there's simple fixes that we can make. We don't need to like reprogram everybody. We just need to like fix the truth.
Yeah, right. Well, and part of it is that recognition that there is a finite number of truths and an infinite number of lies, and that when and all we ask is that if I'm talking to a bot, I want to know it's a bot. That should be simple. And that's even a bill you could probably, even though Elon Musk would probably tell Trump to veto it, I think it would be hard for him to do. If it passed through the House and the Senate, it would get signed into law.
So I think that's toast for the next 4 years. We got to come up with a different way to deal with that. But if you connect up kind of the fears of the economy, fears of immigration, and then the last one is, the story is that Latino men, young Latino men, you say pull up the ladder kind of people, they switched for Trump, or they switched over to Trump. That is entirely related to the immigration, which is entirely related to the lie. Like everything, it's all interconnected. Still there. So
agreed.
We got pants by our own social media.
And this also, Jesus Christ. So insofar as the Latino men kind of stuff, when Tucker Carlson talks about they're trying to replace our culture, with stuff that isn't our culture, that's who they're talking about. They're talking about Hispanics coming from South America and Haitians and black people, certainly from Congo and whatever else. But in large part, they're talking about South American, Hispanic, and Latino people coming into the United States and changing our culture into this fucking taco truck. The way they talk about it. That's what they, and they're like, we got to stop. We got to go back to the version of our culture that was indigenous to the area, circa 1935 through 1985, whatever that window, right? The entire span. They're good with the entire span of the Back to the Future movies, right? Anything that happened in those movies, that's the American culture they want to have, that's natural to here. And that bringing in all these Hispanics is changing our culture. There's if you go to certain parts of town, it's all in Spanish. You go to, Chinatown is cute, but once it spreads in, you've got Chinese signs in other neighborhoods. Fuck that. Monterey Park in Los Angeles, outside of Los Angeles, which has, Chinese signs. They're like, whoa, right? That's their reaction, right? When they're talking about they're trying to come in and take our culture, replace our culture, we're being replaced. That's what they mean. And Latino men just voted in mass to go, yeah, fuck those guys. And then you first, dummy. It's the weirdest thing because they don't care. They're not going to make a distinction that you speak perfect English without a Spanish or a Mexican accent or any of this. They're not going to care. It's where you came from and what you look like and what your root culture is. That is what's going to freak them out and what they want to get rid of.
I hate to be super dark here, but ham-handed Trump everything. Like, they always take the easy path. They always look for the low-hanging fruit. So if they promised that they were going to deport whatever number he said, 5, 10, 20, whatever. Who are the first one? The first ones they're going to go for are the ones they already know who they are.
Yep.
Like, why would they spend the time looking for people that they don't know who they are when they know where a whole bunch of them are? They're going to take the low-hanging fruit. Like
they're TPS people,
the win.
people on temporary protective status, and people on DED. They're going to revoke all that shit and bust them out immediately. The other thing too is if you're in a household with somebody who's on one of those things, they're going to start assuming or asking around, is everybody else in that house sketchy? They're going to come in through and have a, like, believe me, Trump and his ilk will do some sort of knock order where, like, if we know you've got somebody on temporary protected status, one of the things that's part of that is we're going to have to do a site inspection, which means we're going to come through your whole house and do a fucking wall bang and see if you're hiding anybody like churches used to hide people in the basement, you know, during the Holocaust. They're going to check all that shit. They are. Right?
Yeah. He wants the win. Like, he wants the easy wins.
Yes.
Because he doesn't work for anything. He wants to be like, I said this and we did this and here's the numbers, and he'll probably lie about the numbers as well. Like,
totally.
I mean, if he
the other issue I have
he's going to say he deported 5 million.
Totally. You know? Because they aren't here. That's the other thing, is there's not nearly as many as they say. Right. And when they stop finding them, they're going to go, they all left because they were scared. Right. That shit. Right. That,
and then they're going to
like
say, hey, you guys can come back. And then they're going to deport them again and say they did it twice, or say, 5 became 10 overnight. Like, it's
right.
Like, he's shown us who he is.
And I think one of the issues that is concerning in this, is Elon Musk meets Stephen Miller. Those guys together, that's some shit straight out of, the Final Solution stuff.
Yeah. I don't know how it happens, but like we're on the edge of some very dangerous things when, these like individual people who run these large companies, maybe, with money that's maybe theirs, probably not, like most people, the saying is like, you run a business on somebody else's money, right? Like, get rich off of somebody else's money. So they, none of them have the real money. Anyway, my point is like, Blue Origin, Tesla, like these are places. There's a lot of these companies that are sort of becoming these industry kind of titans, and they flow through these individual people. And those people are basically sitting in Mar-a-Lago or in the White House now.
Yep.
Because, Bezos told his he's just going to basically say, look, I did my endorsement thing in the Washington Post. That was for you, Trump. Like, now pay me back. I need a Blue Origin contract. That starts to get really scary. And I don't know how we police that, because it's probably going to be the Wild West for, the next few years.
I think it's going to be chaotic as fuck, because I feel like they are the dog that caught the car, and they don't have any idea how any of this shit's going to go. And Trump doesn't understand a fucking word that comes out of Elon Musk's mouth. And most of his is like shit he heard from his own engineers via telephone, or his own bullshit story. Right. There is, there's a myriad of reasons where this,
I would like to also, though, there's this thing that happens, like, I'm not saying anything bad about you. I'm just saying, like, in this show, you like show a lot of things. You show a lot of robots, and they're moving fast. And it's really easy to get caught up in that. And it's so easy. Like, it's just going to happen.
No, it isn't.
It is very difficult. It's very difficult to get these systems working and working reliably. And you can see that in SpaceX, it's kind of working. But it's off the back of NASA and a lot of engineers and that knew that stuff. And this is a little side, but the chopstick, like the way Trump talks about the heavy getting caught by the chopsticks.
Oh, yes, right. His rocket, it's going boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And like, I was talking to a guy and I hung up the phone. I forgot all about him. Yeah, it's a story. It's great.
So many articles made that about Elon Musk is so brilliant, he figured out how to grab a rocket with chopsticks. Like, there's no difference between that rocket coming down on a barge in the middle of the ocean,
right,
and it coming down on that spot and getting, like, the only difference is chopsticks versus landing on its
right,
feet, right. There is a huge difference, though, and that is if that thing's coming down for the chopsticks and something goes wrong, it shoots off and maybe hits a house, right?
Yes.
In the middle of the ocean, it just dumps in the ocean and everybody's cool, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
Like Musk wants to like, what is it, Omni that's his? Which is the robot that's his? What's the
Optimus.
Musk robot? Optimus. Sorry. So he's like trying to say that this is all real and it's fake so he's just like Trump is for steaks, but he's like just got cooler stuff, right?
Yeah, it's the salesman aspect of it, right? Yeah,
I don't know how Elon Musk does it. It's almost like two like clowns like trying to figure out how they're gonna like get government contracts and take the money because they're gonna
use a tax.
But I don't see how Musk like figures out how to make this stuff work when you've got like serious people like Boston Dynamics and these other you've got very serious people that very smart and have been working on this very hard. They're ready to go.
Yes,
and they've got the engineers and the systems in place to do that stuff. Mm-hmm. So somehow, some way, that's going to have to get distributed, and there's going to be a lot of people going for it because it's the new automobile, in my opinion. Like,
agreed.
The automotive factories, you could convert those right over right now to be mass producing robotics. Like,
right. And then again, depending on the dexterity of the robots and their capability, how small and fine you end up getting their digits and how long in the NVIDIA Eureka, how long it takes them to learn something. You can have them assemble anything a human can do with their fingers, right? And anything that can happen in a factory, which requires a human being taking a piece and carefully putting it in something like a lithography machine or something like that. Running a lithography machine, a robot could do making chips all fucking day. That's what NVIDIA does. NVIDIA's lithography machines are run by robots. In
that case, they're like, it's kind of like a big printer like oven printer, and the robotics basically just move things from place to place.
They just move the pallets.
A Gen 10 LCD factory that was entirely robotic. It was like being in the Matrix where you like look down the aisle and there's like all the people. It was kind of like that, all the people in the pods. It was kind of like that for lithography machines. It was insane. This was LCDs, sorry, but it's still the same process.
Totally.
Or similar process. Anyway, and
by the way, this is Digit.
Like 7-story like robots moving pieces of glass around. It was crazy.
You're right. Yeah, this is Digit. This is the robot that is moving those boxes. That's a factory in Atlanta. The first place robots actually took jobs in the United States, literally doing the backbreaking work of lifting shit up and putting it places, which was the worst part of the job for all these people, is in Georgia. Not far, by the way, from Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. Marjorie Taylor Greene's only job growth in her district came from an EV battery facility that was put there by the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act that Biden put in place.
Right.
3,000 jobs, and they all came from Biden in her district. They only exist because of that. And this dizzy bitch is going to lose all those jobs to Digit bots and Tesla bots more than likely, because he'll muscle his way to the front, and all these right wingers, just like they're buying Cybertrucks, will insist on Optimus doing all these jobs it can't fucking do, while all these other companies that can get their shit done are doing real work for Boeing and BMW and shit like that.
So we try to explain, and it's difficult to do because this is complex. Like, we try to explain how adding automation doesn't eliminate jobs.
No.
It changes the jobs you're doing. The same people are there doing a different job, excuse me.
A lot of it just takes the
Trump and
hard
Musk
part
are so
out.
ham-handed. Like, I don't know how they're going to like walk this line of like, you got all this stuff coming from China to build these robots that are going to take your job, but it's not really taking your job. It's taking migrants. Like, you see what I'm getting at? Like, this is a disaster waiting to happen, and it's coming a freight train.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, Elon Musk, like, his robots are bullshit, and they were walked with, they were controlled secondarily. And again, we've talked about how that's amazing technology, but it's not a living robot thinking on its own the way he proposed it. It's bullshit because it was for show. If he'd have just been honest about it, it's one thing, but he wasn't. the issue that I have is that here these things come a rolling down the street, and what are they but rows and rows of undocumented workers? Because what the hell, right? They don't have documentation.
Run over you.
Yeah, they're not citizens. They're not going to. They can't take an oath to the flag. They can, but they also don't need Social Security at any particular point. This is the Poodoo D7, by the way, which is a great name for something. This is another. This is a Poodoo. Yeah, it's very Star Wars. The Poodoo, which has no legs but uses wheels and grippers, is just a stocking bot basically. But again, think about this. Think about the person that stocks shelves at your local grocery store.
Yeah, that's all it needs to be.
That's all it needs to be. Doesn't need legs, doesn't need anything else.
To not have all the servos needed to articulate.
Absolutely.
The legs.
Yep. And this, and getting rid of the empties, filling other stuff up, collecting garbage. It can't get its finger cut and get an infection from going through the garbage, so it can sort, recycling. There's all kinds of shit, right? So the point I'm trying to make with this little guy is this is a cheap knockoff. This is a Chinese knockoff, the Poodoo Robotics. This is a month ago. This shit didn't exist last year either. This is all horseshit. They just made this thing up borrowing technology. And they all show them taking elevators and going around the building. That's always a big part of it. And I'm sure there's a dude just doing this, whatever. But the point is, eventually it will be autonomous. And this is a knockoff of the Figure 1. Like they're just using basically the look of it. For this, that's how see how this guy is operating it. He's using an Apple Vision Pro. Mm-hmm. That's what was happening. That's why I wanted to show this. This is what Elon Musk's guys were doing.
Yeah,
and that's how they learned
remote control, basically.
Yeah, and that's how they were learning to do shit. This is the MT1, which is a cleaning robot.
Which is actually a valid way of doing it. Like the sort of code that it takes to like articulate really subtle movements, let's say in your hand, right? Like in order to get those movements, like you need to come up with code that's going to drive that. And so what Eureka does or what a human could do is it could like do those tasks like 5, 10, 15, 20 times. And then what our large language models or machine learning does is it figures out which one of those are the most efficient or look right or whatever, and it picks the different variations of those and puts them into a movement that does a thing, right? And then what the large language model does is it says, pick up the apple. You say to it, pick up the apple, and it decides, it looks and it sees, well, it identifies what the apple is. Large language models can do that, or in this case, like image-based Gen AI. And then it chooses what motion it's going to take to go pick up that apple, right? So these things all interconnect with each other, and they're both in and out, inputs and outputs, all using kind of all these different technologies combined.
The point I'm trying to make with a lot of these things is I just want to have people think of like
my son's stealing my sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's understandable.
He's stealing my headphones.
Understood.
He's like, I got to play my game and you're being too loud, Dad.
Yeah, understood. Think of all, there are going to be jobs that are eliminated, and quite a few of them. And again, the first ones that will be eliminated and nobody will bat a fucking eye is the ones that we normally associate with people that cleaning people, for example, like this one, immigrants coming in and doing stuff, the jobs Americans don't want to do. Well, those are the primary focus of Elon Musk and his ilk. These are the jobs nobody wants to do because they're dangerous, they're backbreaking, they're exhausting, they're repetitive, they're uninspiring, they're shitty. And so why would any human want to do them? But least of all, why would we import a human to do it if we can get a machine to do it? And so that's all they are focused on. And so getting rid of these people and going, holy fuck. So let's extrapolate this out. And this is why I was making the point about Operation Wetback and the Eisenhower administration during a time when they...
We're getting to the end of the weave.
Yes, that's right. I would see how that boom, boom, and bing, bong, bing. The reason they started brooming these folks is because they had outlived their usefulness. They brought in, these guys came in to do some farming, and then after they'd been there for a little while, they're like, we don't need you guys, beat it. The ladies can stay. Aha! The ladies can stay because they can pick the fruit. And that's what happened. Remember those pictures from you can even see it in the 50s and 60s. There's these women walking around with baskets, picking all the fruit. These, the women started coming because they were less scary and harmful and I suppose sexually attractive, whatever your reasoning is. And the men would get broomed out of the country. That was part of what Operation Wetback was. Because you guys are being replaced with a thresher and with a plow machine that does 6 rows at a time. We don't fucking need you anymore. And the same thing is true of... That's what this is. That's what that fucking thing is. This is the modern thresher.
Yeah, the connection is really interesting, Cal.
And you broom them out, and then everybody goes, where the fuck am I going to get workers to blah, blah, blah? And in swoops the companies. Well, you don't need a person to do this. This device, my friend, with a maintenance contract, you don't even have to buy it. You can lease it. You will own nothing and be happy, right? That's what they're talking about.
Somebody in the chat mentioned they just made a comment that they were in. I can't find it. I don't know who it was. Sorry. I'm not saying your name. They said that they did construction around a Gillette factory, and they fully automated their packaging. And he said that they went from 500 cars in the parking lot to about 30 or 40.
Right.
And yes, now. What probably happened after that is they moved that they started making those things in China. So the 30 and 40 cars went to 0 because 500 salaries versus 40 salaries is a significant difference in terms of the cost of the product, right? So now you get your Gillette razor at the store, and it what is it, like $2 a cartridge? Well, if there were 500 cars in that parking lot making those cartridges, that cartridge would be $10 or $15 a cartridge, right? Right. And so in order to keep it at 2, they moved it to China. So, maybe you have 30 or 40 people now, 30 or 40 cars in the parking lot, managing robotics, managing all the infrastructure. It's not simple to do this stuff. I want to make that really clear. And that's a sort of play that happens inside of these things. It's like, wow, look at how easy this robot just goes and does this. Well, it takes a lot to get there. So there are people doing that, and that's what keeps maybe the Gillette packaging done here with the robot versus in China by another worker. So you keep the 30 or 40 jobs because you're never going to get to the 500 packaging razors. It's not going to happen. Right. You want to keep the 30 or 40 because that's what it is today, right? Or maybe it was 5 years ago. Right. And of that to I never sell my stuff, but I know a lot about razors for a particular reason. That's right. And so that's a disposable product, and it's made in China. So this thing gets produced there. It comes on a ship and ends up in you use it, a couple times and you throw it in the garbage. So we're just basically moving plastic around to throw it away. So this is to keep it at $2.
By the way, let me put this back here. This is the Tesla factory in Fremont, California. And they have two robots. Those
industrial robots are more like what you see in industry.
What you think of. Yeah, they're repetitive. They do the exact same thing over and over again. And they don't adapt to anything. They're not walking robots. They're more like puppeted, programmed, just completion devices.
You literally they call it reverse kinetics, I think, or something like that. Anyway, you program the end point, and it's like a coding type of job. It's usually done in a 3D software, so it's kind of like CAD, but it creates something like G code, and then that's what drives it. But it's very specific. You code it to do the motion. Right. Now they do have as time goes on and vision systems get a little bit better, they will start putting cameras on, and they'll do small decisions at the end, the last little movement to line up, or
which is what the new, one of the other bots is. I want to show something though in this. So this is, he names all of his he's such a nerd, but he if he wasn't such a douchebag, he'd be kind of silly fun sometimes. But it's Iceman and Wolverine are the name. Yeah, he names all the robots after X-Men characters because he's also uncreative. But this is what I would like to show you, ladies and gentlemen. There are, in this entire assembly process, something in the order of 6 people. Two on each side here, and then there's others laying the things on there in the first place as they straighten these things out and they go through the process. He's in the process of eliminating these 6 people.
Right. And now he wants to run the government and get rid of all
everybody.
Of them.
So well, here's where right. Here's where it works. Here's where it works. Government is a non-profit industry.
Exactly.
It really isn't. One of the things that complain where like we need a businessman to run the business. No, we don't, because a business making a profit. The profit of a government is the health, well-being, and safety and security of the people that it oversees, not the cash on hand it has at the end that it can hand back. That's not a profit. That's like giving back a dividend on a stock more than it's a profit. Okay, it's for real. Okay, so there are a lot of areas in roads and making bridges and all that kind of stuff where if you do it with robots, it costs the taxpayer next to nothing. Are those jobs that won't be done by certain people? Yeah, those are jobs that are going to be lost by people, but they can be done. The jobs those people can do can be for optional private industry, building buildings and skyscrapers and other shit, and can be hired to do that, and they're not competing for those workers from government projects that go on and on and on kind of perpetually forever. And so this is a group of people that come back on the market, right? Ultimately it ain't gonna matter because if he comes in, I guarantee a big portion of what he's going to suggest is we can automate that, we can automate that, we can automate that, we can automate that. We can put chatbots on all the government phones. We can put.
I'll write the code, and you can pay me to do it. That's what he's looking to do. He's looking to extract money.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has nothing to do with just like making government better. No. He wants to take the cash, the taxpayer dollars, and he wants to put them in his pocket to go do those tasks.
Right. And if anybody comes along that can do it better, it's too late.
It's too late because he's already in. Exactly.
He's already in. He's buddies with Trump.
Buddies with Trump, and Trump just says no to the other person, because he wants to now have full control over the choice of contracts and with his 2025. That's
exactly right. And I feel like we've gotten to the end of what would be my normal show, and I feel like we've done a fairly good job of distracting with Skynet everybody who is fretting about the election. And again, I'm not pissing away the seriousness of all the other issues that we're talking about, but I am pointing out that there is a historic precedent for the timing of Trump's new Operation Wetback, and it is entirely to do with him listening to, and the guys around him listening to Elon Musk and saying, we don't even fucking need these people anymore. There are any job an American doesn't want to do, we'll get a robot to do it. I can do it super fast. Even if he's bullshitting, even if it'll take way longer to do than he says, that's what he is selling. And they are buying it.
Yeah. And I'll try to figure out how to articulate it a little better. But this thing I was talking about misinformation, I think is super important. Because as we come out of this time and we want to blame something, it's really important, I think, that, post-mortem, I think Harris did the best job she could in the situation she was in.
Agreed.
Before this all happened, we thought you'd ask anybody who was on her side, how was her campaign? And they would have told you it was great, right?
Yep.
And so people are only crapping on her now because she lost, right?
Right.
But why did she lose? And if we start to connect
these things, they crapped on Biden and he won.
Why did the people?
Jesus Christ! They crapped on Biden and he won. Biden won, and they spent nothing.
By the way,
Okay.
The map in 16 and 20 and 24 looks eerily similar, and the margins are eerily equal. They just go back she lost by about as much as Hillary lost by, and Biden won by, the opposite way.
So they're
sexism. Literally just flipping inside these margins of 200 and 300,000 votes. That's it. Like across the blue wall, I think it's under 200,000, isn't it? Right now?
Yeah.
At any rate, my point is that we really need to look at the why people believe what they believe. And it's not about like dismantling Fox, I think. I think you can come at it in different ways and solve the problem. And this stuff we talk about in AI, it can be part of that. It can be.
Yes.
We just need to work on it and figure it out.
Also, you and I, here's what I would like to do. You and I are going to, as our little side project, using the access to the AI that we both use, we'll start working on, like bot spotter software or something like that. And then people can just, there's already some websites that do it that you could reference and make it just a click button and, reference off there. And then something that on your phone, if you're using social media, you use it through this app. Open them within this app, and it will highlight fake accounts. It'll turn them orange or whatever. That should be doable. And it's a project that you and I could probably work on as an app that people could download or use on their phone, or on their computer anytime they're using these things.
AI is currently not great at recognizing what's AI, but this is maybe outside of the purview of what we could accomplish. But I mean, if there were a social media company like a Twitter clone, specifically, I always think of these things as like, we can show how it's done just by doing, right?
Yes.
And so, what is it? There's a Mint Mobile, their beginnings of Mint Mobile was they wanted to be really cheap or something. REI kind of is that type of company where they want to be ethical, or I can't remember what their spin is, but it's specific. It's specific to what their mission is, right? If there were a social media company whose specific mission was to say, we're just going to do this. We think the law should be this, so this is how we're going to run our system.
Right.
Like, I would think that would be a reasonably good selling point for people to stay on. I mean, again, we're not going to start running a social media company. I'm just saying, like, the way these things might happen. Yeah, well, I mean, with a little chat GPT, you never know.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, like you basically like scrape Ning's software, and which is that.
I mean, it wouldn't take too much to copy what Truth Social did because they stole
not at all.
Everything.
Well, it's fucking that's Mastodon. He just ripped off Mastodon.
It's all open source.
Yeah.
Anyway, you get my idea. Like the idea is, we can't get caught up in like trying to fix something that's unfixable. Right?
Yes.
We need to come at these things in unique ways and just by doing. And that's how I want to start trying to think about these things that we talk about on Friday as well. Like, and how they connect, like, because it's all connects. These conversations are complex, and they can't. And you, in this like post-truth thing, you can't talk about how AI and robotics are going to integrate into our lives because it affects us in very crazy ways. And we're going to have to figure out how incomes work again, or how they work differently, and how Social Security works, and those things have to be done. And so like the cost of I remember there was a comment in the chat about like what happens when automation like stops, people don't work as much, and then now we don't have Social Security to pay to the people that are retired.
Right.
Well, one way to increase people on Social Security is to decrease medical costs or decrease living costs. So automation can decrease the cost, meaning that the money you get from Social Security can go further. Could be the same money. It's just, it goes a lot further, right? Anyway, that's what I'm trying to talk about. Like, these things are not obvious, and, ham-handed Cleaver Trump can't, I mean, we're not going to get there with them. Like, we just have to do.
And if somebody comes to them with it and it works, they're just going to nod and go, yeah, do it. That's his business model anyway. So
or steal it and claim credit for it.
Right, exactly. That's well, I mean, There are ways you can layer that. We will talk more about this on Friday, and I appreciate you dropping in and letting me borrow some of your time right now. But again, I feel like
I was thinking about this earlier today and how it would connect. So when you started talking about it, I'm like, I got to get it out.
Yes, I appreciate that. And it is a very big thing that he is not, and the people around him, in large part, including Elon Musk, I don't think are intellectually capable of grasping. I don't think they can process it. It's hard for me to process sometimes, and I think about it all the fucking time. And part of it, the only reason I can't is because I don't have my hands on all the levers and access to the information I would need to make decision trees about what's possible. Right? Like, I think that's, we don't know the full limitations or the lack of limitations in certain areas. It might be that certain technology is already there and like, oh, poof, fuck. There's already a chip fab that the DOD owns. And if you just use that, you could make robot doctors, like that kind of shit. Maybe that exists to some degree, but I don't have access to the reality of that. And we can only go by what's commercially available or what's been leaked or the logical extrapolation of if this is here, it'll eventually get here. And I gotta say, I have been, for a long time, I've been focused on what I would call the hoverboard fallacy. That right? And Back to the Future, he got that little hoverboard skateboard. For that to exist, your entire fucking world changes. The complexity of that device.
Anti-gravity, essentially.
Right, you've got an anti-gravity toy that you can ride around on that has seemingly unlimited battery life. What the ever-loving fuck? You don't have friction anymore. You don't need wheels. No vehicle would need wheels ever again. Yeah. Like, it's absurd.
You don't need rocket boosters anymore.
Nothing. You could get off the planet just by flicking a switch. So anybody could travel into space. Like, you could have invert gravity suits based on the same technology that push back against the pressure of space.
Yeah.
Right, you know what I mean? Like, all the things, and you would get there before you would get to, and I made a toy. Like, by the time it reaches the toy fuck around phase. Yes, by the time you made a skateboard that you sell, that kids have access to, holy fuck, where is it everywhere else? And the same thing is true of like robotics in this, we're not always behind the DOD and stuff, in robotics and all these other things. I think commercial stuff is often the testing ground for a lot of things. And I think that's where a lot of these like prosumer robotics actually do happen. It's where Siri and all these things are having a major impact on the speed of how it works and what doesn't. But there's going to be
the military is currently going into private sectors and trying to figure out faster ways to produce things. Mm-hmm. And they are going like I think the major talks about tanks being controlled by Xbox controllers. Like they're combining, not everything is this like, $10,000 hammer, like, or toy,
right,
which is a stupid thing too. But at any rate,
they don't exist. That's a way to hide money.
Yeah, exactly. I just saw something about C-130s having like a really expensive soap dispenser, and I'm like, come on, like. This is the stupidest article ever.
Because you can't list in a budgetary thing when you have people like Ron Johnson looking at them that they have a special like pulsar that stops radar from being able to spot it. So you put the money in the soap dish. It costs this much. For the soap dish, yeah, if it crashes, we don't want it flinging through and killing our pilot. Oh, okay, derp. And they sign off on it. Of course. Good Lord, we can't stop nerding. That's true, Gwen. We will never stop nerding, and there will be plenty to nerd about.
Midwestern nerding, so it takes.
Oh my God, yes, it's the Midwestern nerd goodbye. So, anyways, appreciate it. I will see you Friday morning, 9 a.m. for Friday AI, and we will start talking about what can be the solutions to some of this shit that we'll have to deal with on our own. Because your sphere of influence on your own life is going to get really fucking important if you rely on, the government, or you don't trust the government in what it's going to try and do. And believe me, go watch a sci-fi film that doesn't allow, about people not being allowed to augment themselves, as with robot shit or whatever. There's always these underground areas. Go watch Minority Report when he gets new eyeballs. Yeah. Like, because you get scanned everywhere you go, he needs new eyeballs. Like, that we're not there yet, but that's a good analogy for what's going to be necessary, right?
Totally.
So, anyways, I love you guys, and thank you so much, and thanks, Rob, so much. I'll let you guys go.
Everybody in the chat as well. Good to see you all, and thanks, Al. We'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. See you Friday. Okay, take care.